Section of Yoga, Chapter 4, Yoga as Body and Mind Control. Throughout Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to fight, for he was a warrior and fighting was his duty. Although Krishna delineates the meditational yoga system in the 6th chapter, he does not stress it or encourage Arjuna to pursue it as his path. Krishna admits that this meditational process is very difficult. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamyam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Kalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Gruhyate. The blessed Lord said, O mighty son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by constant practice and by detachment. Bhagavad Gita 6.35. Here Krishna emphasizes practice and renunciation as ways to control the mind. But what is the renunciation? Today, it is hardly possible for us to renounce anything, for we are too habituated to such a variety of material sense pleasures. Despite leading a life of uncontrolled sense indulgence, we attend yoga classes and expect to attain success. There are so many rules and regulations involved in the proper execution of yoga, and most of us can hardly give up a simple habit. Take smoking. In his discourse on the meditational yoga system, Krishna.
Krishna
Hmm.
proclaimed that yoga cannot be properly performed by one who eats too much or eats too little. One who starves himself cannot properly perform yoga, nor can the person who eats more than required. The eating process should be moderate, just enough to keep body and soul together. It should not be for the enjoyment of the tongue. When the palatable dishes come before us, we are accustomed to take not just one of the preparations but two, three, and four, and upwards. Our tongue is never satisfied, but it is not unusual in India to see a yogi take only a small spoonful of rice a day and nothing more. Nor can one execute the meditational yoga system if one sleeps too much or does not sleep sufficiently. Krishna does not say that there is such a thing as dreamless sleep. As soon as we go to sleep, we will have a dream, although we may not remember it. In the Gita, Krishna cautions that one who dreams too much while sleeping cannot properly execute yoga. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily, nor can one infected by insomnia who cannot sleep at night successfully execute yoga, for the body must be kept fit. Thus, Krishna outlines so many requirements for disciplining the body. All these requirements, however, can essentially be broken down into four basic rules: no illicit sexual connection, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. These are the four minimum regulations for the execution of any yoga system. And in this age, who can refrain from these activities? We have to test ourselves accordingly to ascertain our success in yoga execution.
योगी युञ्जिता सततम् आत्मानम् अरहसि स्थितः एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निरसिः अपरिग्रहः. A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Bhagavad Gita 6.8. From this verse, we can understand that it is the duty of the yogi to always remain alone. Meditational yoga cannot be performed in an assembly, at least not according to Bhagavad Gita. In the meditational system, it is not possible to concentrate the mind upon the super soul except in a secluded place in India. There are still many yogis who assemble at the Kumbh Mela. Generally, they are in seclusion, but on rare occasions, they come to attend special functions. In India, there are still thousands of yogis and sages, and every 12 years or so they meet in particular holy places, Allahabad, etc. Just as in America, they have businessmen's conventions. The yogi, in addition to living in a secluded place, should also be free from desires and should not think that he is performing yoga to achieve some material powers, nor should be nor should he accept gifts or favors from people. If he is properly executing this meditational yoga, he stays alone in the jungles, forests, or mountains and avoids society altogether at all times. He must be convinced for whom he has become a yogi. He does not consider himself alone because at all times the Paramatma, Super Soul, is with him. From this, we can see that in modern civilization, it is indeed very difficult to execute this meditational form of yoga properly. Contemporary civilization in this age of Kali has actually made it impossible for us to be alone, to be desireless, and to be possessionless. The method of
The
executing mm,
The method of executing meditational yoga is further explained in considerable detail by Krishna to Arjuna. Sri Krishna says, Shuchau deshe pratisthapya sthiram asanam atmanah nati ucharitam nati nicham chailajinam कुशोत्तरम् तत्रैकाग्रं तत् एकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यत् चिन्तेन्द्रियक्रियाः उपविश्यासने युञ्जयात् योगम् आत्मा विशुद्धया. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay push grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and the senses, purifying the heart and fixing the mind on one point. Bhagavad Gita 6.11 to 12. Generally, yogis sit on tiger skin or deer skin because reptiles will not crawl on such skins to disturb their meditations. It seems that in God's creation there is a use for everything. Every grass and every herb has its use and serves some function, although we may not know what it is. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has made some provision whereby the yogi doesn't have to worry about snakes. Having acquired a good sitting place in a secluded environment, the yogi begins to purify the Atma, body, mind, and soul. The yogi should not think, now I will try to achieve some wonderful powers. Sometimes yogis do not attain certain siddhis or powers, but these are not the purpose of yoga, and real yogis do not exhibit them. The real yogi thinks, I am now contaminated by this material atmosphere, so now I must purify myself. One can quickly see that we can quickly see that controlling the mind and body is not such an easy thing, and that we cannot control them as easily as we can go to the store and purchase something. But Krishna indicates that these rules can be easily followed when we are in Krishna consciousness.
Of course, everyone is motivated by sex life, but sex life is not actually discouraged. We have this material body, and as long as we have it, sex desire will be there. Similarly, as long as we have the body, we must eat to maintain it, and we must sleep in order to give it a rest. We cannot expect to negate these activities, but the Vedic literatures do give us guidelines for regulation in eating, sleeping, mating, etc. If we at all expect success in the yoga system, we cannot allow out unbridled senses to take us down the paths of sense objects. Therefore, guidelines are set up. Lord Sri Krishna is advising that the mind can be controlled through regulation. If we do not regulate our activities, our mind will be more and more agitated. It is not that activities are to be stopped, but regulated by the mind always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Being always engaged in some activity connected with Krishna is actual samadhi. It is not that when one is in samadhi, he does not eat, work, sleep, or enjoy himself in any way.
Rather, samadhi can be defined as executing regulative activities while absorbed in the thought of Krishna. Asamaya tatmano yogo दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः वाष्यात्मना तु यतता यतता शाख्यो वाप्तुम् उपायतः. For one whose mind is unbridled, Krishna further says, self-realization is difficult work. Bhagavad-Gita 6.36. Anyone knows that an unbridled horse is dangerous to ride. We can go in any direction at any speed and his rider is likely to come to some harm. Insofar as the mind is unbridled, Krishna agrees with Arjuna that the yoga system is very difficult work indeed. But Krishna adds, he whose mind is controlled and strives by right means is assured to success. That is my judgment. Bhagavad Gita 6.36. What is meant by strives by right means? One has to try to follow the four basic regulative principles as mentioned and execute his activities absorbed in Krishna consciousness.
If one wants to engage in yoga at home, then he has to make certain that his other engagement are moderate. He cannot spend long hours of the day working hard to simply earn a livelihood. One should work very moderately, eat very moderately, gratify the senses very moderately, and keep his life as free from anxiety as possible. In this way, practice of yoga may be successful.
What is the sign by which we can tell that one has attained perfection in yoga? Krishna indicates that one is situated in yoga when his consciousness is completely under his control. Yada viniyatmachitam atmani eva vatishtate nishpraha sarvakamebhyo yukta itti uchyate tada. When the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activity and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. Bhagavad Gita 6.82. One who has attained yoga is not dependent on the dictations of his mind, rather, the mind comes under his control. Nor is the mind put out or extinguished, for it is the business of the yogi to think of Krishna or Vishnu always. The yogi cannot allow his mind to go out. This may sound very difficult, but it is possible in Krishna consciousness. When one is always engaged in Krishna consciousness in the service of Krishna, then how is it possible for the mind to wander away from Krishna? In the service of Krishna, the mind is automatically controlled.
Nor should the yogi have any desire for material sense gratification. If one is in Krishna consciousness, he has no desire other than Krishna. It is not possible to become desireless. The desire for sense gratification must be overcome by the process of purification. But desire for Krishna should be cultivated. It is simply that we have to transfer the desire. There is no question of killing desire, for desire is the constant companion of the living entity. Krishna consciousness is the process by which one purifies his desire. Or instead of desiring so many things for sense gratification, one simply desires things for the service of Krishna. For example, we may desire palatable food, but instead of preparing foodstuffs for ourselves, we can prepare them for Krishna and offer them to him. It is not that the action is different, but there is a transfer of consciousness from thinking of acting for my senses to thinking of acting for Krishna. We may prepare nice milk products, vegetables, grains, fruits, and other vegetarian dishes for Krishna and then offer them to him, praying. This material body is lump of ignorance, and the senses are a network of path leading to death. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. Therefore, Sri Krishna has given us this nice prasad, spiritual food to conquer the tongue. So let us take this prasad to our full satisfaction and glorify their lordships Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, and in love call for the help of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu. In this way, our karma is sacrificed. For from the very beginning, we are thinking that the food is being offered to Krishna. We should have no personal desires for the food. Krishna is so merciful, however, that he gives us the food to eat. In this way, our desire is fulfilled. When one has molded his life in such a way, dovetailing his desires to Krishna's, then it is to be understood that he has attained perfection in yoga. Simply breathing deeply and doing some exercises is not yoga as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned. A whole purification of consciousness is required.
Hare Krishna.